obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Guys.
President of the United States wrapping up his words right now. We're back with our Chief White House correspondent.
Hi, Tom. It's been a minute. Yes. This is a surprise stream. I'm not even gonna do that much like intro, like, because usually this is part of the stream where I tell you guys about what's been going on in my life, but I just want to say this is crazy. This is unplanned. No, Tom, I streamed recently. It just wasn't consistent. I still don't have a schedule yet, but I will. What was I gonna say? I'm coming to you live and alive, still in New York City, knock on wood. Because New York, it makes sense that we would be. I don't think Iran has like missiles that could reach New York, but you never know. A and B. What if I don't think China's gonna help them, but if China or Russia does, which I don't think Russia's gonna do because it's already in another war, it would probably be China or some regional power, but I highly doubt it because so far they haven't gotten involved directly yet. Thank you, Tom. How have you been, by the way? Other than this, that could lead to World War III. But yeah, I'm worried about the tons of American bases and the troops and all that kind of stuff, like the military in the Middle East that Iran's missiles can reach. They're just going to become nuclear sponges, or in this case, bomb sponges. They don't have the same like in Israel, they don't have Iron Dome and all the different layers. One of the only things, they have some air protection, but what's really protecting them is America's reputation. Like you're not gonna bomb these bases because then you're gonna screw with America and you're gonna go to war with America. So that's kind of mostly what's stopping people in the Middle East bombing the American bases around there. I literally just like did my makeup real quick. I just realized I forgot some powder, so it might be a bit shiny. I might go rectify that in a little bit. But how have you been, Tom? Other than this breaking news. And by the way, I streamed 17 days ago, I think. But yeah, the big streamers, like Asmin and Hassan, I think Hassan is like, I don't know, breaking 9. I think he's gonna break 100K, kind of like during the election. I don't want to know about Asmongold because he's like, I think he's a grifter at this point. Like his father is a Hasanabi head. Anyway, I'm good. Just been working. It's midsummer now. Yeah, it is midsummer, but New York weather has been shit. Like it's in the middle of June, and I've had to wear jackets out when I go out. Details of the attack. Thank you, Tom. This is why I missed you. And I think we're gonna repeat watch. We're gonna repeat watch his speech because I was kind of just like running around getting things settled. I need to get the lights on. Like it's just. Give me a second. I don't know if that's worse or better. I was out and about. I got home, and then, you know, this shit. Okay, so let's unmute this. Oh my God, it's Fox. But you know what? They're probably gonna have the most like accurate in the sense of like what Trump is
some
thinking
400
right now,
miles
so.
away. Everyone is out of harm's way for now.
fuck?
That does not mean
That is so
that
low
American
res. What the
assets in
fuck?
the region are not at risk. And we are monitoring the Iranian
720p.
response or potential response all throughout the night.
Hold on, I'm gonna pause this. This is 720p. Why is it doing this? Is that better? Yeah, that's better. Hold on. I'm a little frazzled, as you can see. And I want to, aw, Tom. And I want to, oh, by the way, I want to ask you, how were you notified that I was streaming? Was it Discord or Twitch that notified you? Because apparently another subscriber or follower said, oh, interesting. Because they said that, like, if you hadn't streamed consistently for months, they stopped notifying people. So that may not be true. Interesting. But I did post on Discord, so. Did you get that notification? I mean, you'd know better than I do. I've been wanting to change the freaking angle of my. I don't want to fuck with the camera too much. Or maybe it should be this side. I don't fucking know, bro. I don't know. I'll fix the cam. Maybe a different stream. Or I could do it now. I don't have Discord app on my phone. I try to keep the phone on. Yeah, that's healthy, Tom. I've been like doing the same thing, like muting apps and like limiting time I can spend on apps. All right.
We expect the president will be.
Okay.
I just spoke to the President of the United States. I have some new information and breaking details to share about tonight's what is historic air campaign. Now, tonight, Iran's nuclear ambitions, they are officially dead. It appears the United States just completely obliterated Iran's top secret Fordo.
It wasn't top secret, A. And B, I don't think I'm not sure. This is speculation. Apparently, I think, I don't know maybe how many days ago, but Iran made a statement that they had moved a lot of their enriched uranium to a different location. I don't know how true that is or if that's Iranian cope, but yeah, we'll see. I saw a clip of like some retired general on Fox, and he was giving out all these numbers about how many missiles they have and like all these things and how much of it is left percentage wise. And I'm like, how Iran isn't just releasing the number of like ballistic missiles they have, you know, like those are like made up numbers. They're not telling like the Western world like, oh, we only have like half of our stockpile left. Like that is not war strat. So it's just like another thing that Fox is doing. They're manufacturing consent. They're warmongering. Everyone's covering it, including mainstream media, obviously. What are you doing, Tom? What were you doing when you got the breaking? All right, I'll play this shit. I'm gonna play this while I fix the camera.
Nuclear facility with 6 huge bunker buster bombs. It was originally speculated that you would only need 2. It turns out they used 5 to 6 dropped from America's stealth B-2 bombers. And that's not all. 2 other major Iranian nuclear sites, Natanz and
I want to pause that. I think in one of our previous streams, well, I don't know if you were there, Tom, but we watched something to do with like the military and what they have and what they don't have, and that was like really cool in the sense of like the military, especially like the big powers of the world, and we came across that this stealth B-2 stealth bomber, like the one that you see like in movies, the really cool ones. Not cool that they did what they did tonight, but cool in the sense that they look really cool. So it's like the ones that like don't like, it's like a triangle. Like, hold on. B-2 stealth bomber. Guess someone's done cost. Well, cost $2 billion. So this is what it looks like. Like, this is crazy. This looks like some alien shit, you know? BBC, US reportedly moved stealth bombers as Iran considers strikes. Okay, that was 6 hours ago. 25 minutes ago. Okay. So the reason why they did such a big strike with conventional bombs and not like a targeted nuke or a normal nuke is because they needed, it was so deep into the mountains apparently that they needed like the big dogs, the big guns to get into the top secret nuclear facility. Tom, I was watching news at the same time and got breaking right away. Yeah, I got that on my phone. I was like, the fuck? My friends in IRL that know that I'm into politics. Okay, this might not work. basically blew up my phone. My phone blew up. And so I was like, fuck. I'm going to have to stream. So yeah. That's what I'm doing right now. And I need to figure out this fucking cam. Do I want it on the left or the right? What do you think, Tom? Okay, sorry.
Stefan, were wiped out with 30 Tomahawk missiles launched by American submarines some 400 miles away. Everyone is out of harm's way for now. That does not mean that American assets in the region are not at risk. And we are monitoring the Iranian response or potential response all throughout the night. We expect the president will be...
So I don't think... I think the Iranians made a statement, did they not? Can you, if you came across it, Tom, please link me. But did they not make a Twitter announcement? I'm pretty sure that they did. Or if not, shortly. I'm pretty sure they did. I feel like I heard it somewhere where they're like... or maybe they did like a few days ago or something. That like, I don't know. I just feel like they're not going to try to escalate it, I don't think. And I don't really see China getting involved. I'm not seeing any like breaking from China right now. I could be wrong. I'm texting people I know in China to see what the fuck is going on. It's depending on which time zone you are in China, it's huge. But where my time zone is, it's 10 a.m. in the morning. So it's going to be on TV. And I'm asking people who know how the Chinese think. Sorry. Phone blowing up. All right, sorry, what did you say, Tom? Well, the entrance of the nuclear site would not be so top secret, but the exact location could be further away from the entrance. True. And they said that they moved some of their stuff. And I think just like Russia or North Korea, they keep their shit like moving. So it's not so much target, but I think some of that was also taken out. Not all, but I think it's impossible to keep things top secret in today's U.S. tech. Yeah, and our allies. I mean, that's why no one fucks with us. So we gotta see what's gonna happen. What I'm worried about is our bases in the Middle East. I'm not even gonna get into right now why we have so many bases in the Middle East. I'm probably gonna turn on mainstream media, maybe, because they have more tech and they have more people who have lived longer than I have and are, it's their actual job, paid job, to cover this and make the graphics and shit. Okay, let me just is happening? Okay, this is NBC.
Iran deal, which was there would be intrusive inspections, there would be oversight, there would be international verification.
Okay, MSNBC got Matt out to come back. That's probably part of her deal. Like she didn't want to like do broadcast anymore, but they were like, nah, you got to stay because you're the big pull. So she negotiated like only doing Mondays. And like they probably were like, you're gonna have to come back for special occasions, like any like elections or breaking news. So I think that's what's going on right now. Hold on. Let me see. Is MSNBC live right now? They've got to be. Fuck, what? I cut the cable cord, so I don't have them live. Okay, let's see what she said.
This is MSNBC's ongoing special breaking
Sorry,
news
that was
coverage.
loud.
I'm Rachel Maddow. If you're just tuning in, we are following the breaking news.
Hold on. Tom. Some U.S. troops posted these on TikTok. Are we sure that it's not AI? Because this is so breaking that, like, I'm very cognizant of making too many, like, hard statements, you know, because no one really knows what's going on right now. The fallout, no pun intended, tomorrow. Hopefully Iran doesn't retaliate immediately. I don't think they have the same level of military strategic organization. And then there's like the prince that got back, and it's just like they want regime change in the US of Iran from like the conservatives, and it's just like a whole mess, you know? I've been trying to keep up with this, but like I've been very busy, and I feel like this war has been not just Israel and Gaza. When Iran got involved, it's like I had to be like, if I wanted to stream this, I would have to be like no life outside of this in order to keep up. Because every day there would be waves and waves and waves, and you don't know who is saying the right things and the reporting on the right numbers and who's like coping, you know? Especially state media. It's real. How do you know? How do you know? What the fuck? Hold on. Hold the phone. You know one thing that I hate about TikTok? It's the autoplay. Is there a way to like stop that? Holy shit. That's crazy. Tom, thank you for the links. They got fed steak and lobster. Okay. We are doing okay. Thank you, Tom. You are essential right now to the broadcast. I'm a little hyped because I've been drinking. And, you know. Okay. Let's see. What's the sitch?
So much. I like it.
Steak and lobster. You know what that means? We are going to war. To war we are going. I'm gonna eat good now.
Can he post that? Can he post that? Like, is that... Wouldn't the U.S. military be like, you can't leak this shit? Especially on a Chinese app. I don't know about that. I don't know. That's crazy. This is crazy. This looks crazy. This actually looks like the sea. Iran, we on the way. You better say sorry now before we get there. Well, maybe I don't see them saying sorry because of the collectivistic culture and also the way the country is, Iranian, you know, culture. I don't like Iran, okay? I don't like the way they treat people, especially women, the way they run their country. But Israel completely started this shit in regards to Iran. So, like, can you, like, they obviously had the right to protect themselves, and they had to do it politically to show their citizens that they're not just going to take it, you know. All right, let's play this. You know, they don't need to say sorry, and I don't think they will. They're a shame-based society, like collectivistic ones, kind of like China. They're probably going to say they're going to war. I don't know if they're going to be like the Japanese in World War II and be like, we have nothing to lose, so we're going to fight to the death. That is the worst case scenario, I think. And then the U.S. get involved, and then fucking nukes, you know. Is this on a carrier? Those are like battleships, you know? The fuck is this shit? Oh, okay, I'm not even logged in. I was like, what is this algo? My lord. Okay, let's see here. At least, this was 12 hours ago. I thought that this was a bluff. Legitimately, I thought it was a bluff when they were moving shit. So, 12 hours ago, at least 6 U.S. B-2 stealth bombers are now over the Pacific Ocean to be positioned within striking distance of Iran. They took off overnight from Whiteman AFB in, I think that's Missouri, and were immediately refueled in air. That's really cool. Suggesting a heavy payload, such as bombs. Only the B-2 is capable of dropping 30K pounds bunker buster bombs. This is what I was referring to earlier, which would be needed to destroy the Fordo enrichment facility believed to be 300 feet underground. Pray for our troops. American flag. What the fuck is this?
Look now. First, it requires the use of a BT stealth bomber. It's the only aircraft currently programmed to carry that 30,000-pound payload that they are considering. Once in position, the B-2 drops 2 bombs, which are guided to target with GPS and internal navigation systems. The first bomb burrows into the ground and explodes, creating a hole up to 200 feet below the surface. The second bomb follows into that same hole, further burrowing into the ground and exploding well below the 200-foot mark. So they got to drill into that mountain where the Fordo nuclear site is. And I know you look now. First, it requires the use of a BT stealth bomber. It's the only aircraft currently.
But that's good to know. That's good to know this is how they did it, in the sense of like, okay, more information the better, more informed we are. Not that this was a good move. So much for a peaceful president, right? No new wars. Now, if they got fed steak and lobster, does that mean U.S. will do ground operations to Iran in case Iran decides to launch ballistic missiles at the U.S. bases? Honestly, I don't know. Only time will tell. But I do not think, from polls in America, that any, like, over the majority, I think 60% or something like that, are opposed to us going to war with Iran. And I certainly having troops on the ground is like very war, like Americans and humans in general are very visual, right? So yeah, this is crazy, but then having troops on the ground on top of that instead of just using air power, that's crazy. Because like, as you can see what's happening in Israel, right? Like, it's like easy to kind of be like plausible deniability, saying like, oh, there's no troops on the ground, so we're not technically at war. But come on, it's a proxy war. All right, let's watch this, because I don't know what the fuck this is. Okay, is this Iranian? Okay. Hold on. Okay. Okay. There's no sound, by the way, so. All right. So this is allegedly the compound or facility inside the mountain. All right, that's it. That's it. I think we should tune in to this.
That U.S. bombers carried out strikes today at 3 Iranian nuclear sites. One at Natanz, a site that had previously been hit by Israel. Israel and Iran have been trading strikes since Israel's surprise attack last Friday. Israel has already attacked the site at Natanz. Now the United States has done so as well. Another nuclear site near Isfahan in Iran. And also, according to the president, the facility called Fordo, which is a deeply buried facility. And that's important tactically because the U.S. military is believed to have essentially unique targeting capacity to hit a site like that. It is a deep underground facility. The United States has essentially developed weapons specifically to target facilities like that one. And so these B-2 bombers that have reportedly carried out these strikes tonight in Iran are aircraft with capacity that no other military in the world really has. Now, common wisdom about this president, about the political movement that he leads, is that he is supposedly isolationist, that he is supposedly anti-war. That has never been exactly right. That's always been kind of a lazy common wisdom.
I remember during one of the debates, he was like, "No new wars started under my presidency," and that was what he hit Biden for in regards to Israel. So now he can't do that. But I'm sure the MAGA base are still going to back him.
In less than 6 months back in office, he has threatened military action against Panama, against Canada, against Denmark in order to seize Greenland. He has bombed Yemen over and over and over again, and now he appears to have entered the United States military into a war in Iran, something that neoconservatives have thrilled to for, I guess, 2 generations now. A lot of commentary around the Trump phenomenon and Trump's politics would suggest that he has risen in opposition to the neoconservatives who have advocated for this type of war since essentially the Iranian Revolution in 1979. But since 1979, the U.S. military has not engaged directly with Iran. But Donald Trump has done so tonight. Donald Trump has ordered U.S. military bombing raids on Iran. We are now in war with Iran.
So the president technically can't declare war. That's Congress. But it's like the middle of the night on a Saturday. So I don't even know if Congress is on break right now. But if they're not on break, they're going to have to, I don't know if they do emergency stuff, like if we're at war, like laws, like old laws on the books. And I think they gave the president a lot of power in the past in regards to war. I don't know what the exact wording of that was, but I remember that happening. And now with the Supreme Court being, fucking crazy, they've already, expanded the presidential powers, basically infinitely. I think he can get away with this. But technically, according to the Constitution, he can't do it.
President Trump announced the strikes on his niche social media platform, which is called Truth Social. He said in that post, quote, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. All planes are now outside Iran airspace. A full payload of," inexplicable all capital letters, "bombs It's not an acronym. He's just spelling it in all capital letters. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the capital world that could have done this. And then he says in all capital letters, now is the time for peace, exclamation point. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The president, in his quirky spelling and delivery, delivering the most sober possible message to the American people, who have been largely opposed to and afraid of a potential U.S. war with Iran, again, for generations. Donald Trump has now started it. We are expecting President Trump to address the nation just about an hour from now, talking about this decision. Well, of course, we'll bring you that live when it happens. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Monica, thanks very much for being with us. I know this is crunch time.
We can play
what can you tell us about this decision tonight and what we know about the potential scope of this military engagement?
Yeah, Rachel, good to be with you. Look, this is an incredibly
I'm gonna pause that shit and I'm gonna show that really short clip of yours, Tom. Hold on, give me 1 second. Because it's short. Pause. So this is from Iran, you said, Tom? Strike moment, but from very far. Footage from earlier tonight shows the U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear facility in, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Crazy to see the U.S. striking Iran. That is true. Is there audio? Wait, I thought there was only 2 bombs. Why are there so many explosions? All right.
Consequential decision of a massive scale for any president, but of course, in particular for this one who had been touting the fact that he was going to maybe give Iran as much as 2 weeks to see if a diplomatic solution could be possible. We knew that there were European leaders huddling with Iranian officials in Geneva as recently as yesterday. And he was even arguing from the tarmac when he was traveling yesterday and on Air Force One that perhaps that was a possibility, but he had been also very clear that it was likely that if he didn't get the terms of a deal that he was potentially pursuing here, that the U.S. military could get more involved. Now, he's going to lay out, I'm told, his rationale to the American people for this when he does speak at 10 p.m. And he is going to, of course, talk about what this means in this moment. I'm told by a senior White House official that right now,
I literally have some guy friends who are like, oh, I hope we don't get drafted. You know, that's insane. Like, this is what we're talking about now. Like, I can't believe I received that text saying, I hope I don't get drafted. You know, like, that's crazy. They used like 30 bombs on. Really? I thought we just watched Fox saying that they used 2 bombs, 2 huge ass bombs to penetrate the mountain. So I don't think that they used 30. We can check on that. I mean, I'm sure tomorrow all the facts will be out more because this is breaking. So who knows? You might be right, Tom.
He and the country does not and should not expect additional strikes. Again, at this moment, this has obviously been unfolding in real time, can change incredibly quickly, but that is the posture as of, again, this second. And we know that the president also just a couple of hours ago had a conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. We know that this was a U.S. military operation that was heavily coordinated with Israel. They obviously were briefed briefed on every step of the way. They knew this was happening. It was done, again, in a highly coordinated fashion, and that's not surprising. The president has been in touch with the prime minister pretty much every day over this last week or so when it comes to this conflict. And I can also tell you, Rachel, that he was traveling back from his property in Bedminster, New Jersey. He returned to Washington around 5:30.
No, he did. Well, not Trump. It was like one of the excuse me. It was one of the it was a Fox person. Like every cable news network now has their own version of Steve Kornacki, except they're not Steve Kornacki. So whoever was working the board said that. And they did the they had the graphics too. So I don't know. Wait, what? What'd you say? Okay, I can't. Okay, those two nuclear sites were wiped out using 30 missiles from American submarines for, yo, that's crazy. Like water to air to land missiles, like that's crazy. And I think that one facility is 6 bunker busters, the only 2 facilities 30 bombs. The other 2 facilities 30 bombs. Wait, what? I'm so confused. So which facility had only 2 bombs dropped on them? The main one or something? Okay, so I know I kind of tuned into Hassan's thing like before I was ready to get on stream. And I kind of heard what he was saying, and I disagree with some of it. And I think this is like one of the things that we disagree on, like geopolitics. I've always said that, and the importance of the military. And I think that I disagree with what he was saying. Like, there's a reason why we are the superpower of the world is because of the power of our military, and that's important. Obviously, the Pentagon has like failed like the last 4 audits. So we need to figure that out. And we spend way too much money on the military that is misspent, I think. It could be more efficient, and we can still keep the integrity and the power of our military without doing that. None of you misheard it. Did I? Did I really? Well, I apologize if I did, but I really feel like they said 2. Whatever. We'll see. We'll see tomorrow.
p.m. this evening, and he went to the Situation Room where he monitored much of this in real time, again, with some of his top national security advisors, and where we know that this is something that will be planned. It's going to continue to take place throughout the evening. We know that tomorrow he has another National Security Council meeting, and to the point that you started this show with about this question of the U.S. effectively being at war with Iran right now, this is a president that's going to need to come out and tell the American people why he made that decision, why this posture was one he felt was inevitable. And you're already seeing a lot of lawmakers, and a bipartisan effort, we should point out, raising questions about this and using this kind of military authority without that congressional approval. We know there had been a resolution that had been in the works over the last couple of days to see if that could be put up for a vote next week that was anticipating this potentially. But again, this is President Trump's maybe perhaps most consequential decision of this second term. Of course, there were many in the first term, but this is also a person who we need to remind everybody as a candidate repeatedly campaigned on and against ending all foreign wars and not pushing the U.S. further into these kinds of military entanglements overseas. So I think there's a lot of questions tonight about his approach to all of this.
Because, okay, Tom, because if it was just 2 bunker busters, they would need multiple B-2s. They would have needed only 1. Wait, what? I don't understand. Can you reword that? Because what I thought I heard was that they sent 2 B-2s to bomb that main one. Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure B-2 can carry more than one bomb. Like, there's no shot that a $2 billion plane can only carry one large bomb. Like, I'm sure it can carry multiple small ones, but, like, there's no shot that, right? I feel like there's no way that, I mean, we could look this up. I mean, this is a Google question, right? All right.
But I can also tell you, Rachel, just from talking to my White House sources a short time ago, they're very pleased with the fact that this was able to be carried out covertly, that it didn't appear that anything leaked, and that they were able to do this and keep U.S. military and U.S. personnel who were involved as safe as possible throughout the evening. For now, Rachel.
Monica, this is both a White House communications question and also sort of a strategic question, which is that I know that I'm sure...
I was right. I was fucking right, Tom. I was fucking right. Well, I meant, okay, maybe we just misunderstood each other. There's 6 B-2s in the middle. Yeah, they sent like a bunch of planes. They sent a bunch of planes to Guam. And it says here, the B-2 Spirit bomber can carry more than one 30,000-pound bomb, while it can carry the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, MOP, a 30,000-pound bunker buster. Its payload capacity of over 40,000 pounds allows it to carry a variety of weapons, including multiple smaller bombs or even a nuclear weapon, a fucking nuke. That's crazy. And like, when they say tactical nukes, we don't know the size of the tactical nukes, because there's like a huge range. There's like smaller ones, and then it can range to bombs that are tactical nukes that are bigger than the bombs that the US dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I think when people say, the mainstream media and the government say like tactical nukes, the boomers are gonna not know and be like, oh, it's just a smaller nuke, it's fine, it's not that bad. No, like, it's bad. They had to penetrate all the water in that mountain all the way. Oh, there's water in that mountain? I thought it was just like really strong rock and multiple different types of rock. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. I just know that Iran, it's really hard to go to war with Iran and to invade or whatever because of the terrain. The terrain is crazy. So they have like a natural barrier terrain that protects them. But they're also like very fractured in regards to their government and like the diversity of religion and races. I don't know. But all I know is that it's really hard to get everyone to unite. But one thing that I know that unites people is fucking war. But I don't know how that works in Iran. I know that's how it works in the Western world.
The White House has seen the American public polling on this and knows that this is an unpopular move. The president has been so opaque, almost teasing in his remarks to reporters about how nobody knows what I'm going to do. The White House hasn't made an effort to try to publicly sell to the American people the necessity of a strike like this. They've done the strike now, and we don't know, again, if this will just be a one-off or this is the start of a longer engagement. Once you've bombed another country, you don't necessarily get a say as to how much war you end up with them in. Is there a sense at the White House that there is going to be, they meant to, they now plan to try to do more communication to the American people as to why this is necessary, why this is our war? The Secretary of State, for example, Marco Rubio, has argued essentially the opposite to the American people in very recent days.
Yeah, just as recently as about a week ago, when this conflict really began in earnest and all of the fire was being exchanged between Iran and Israel, that was the top line from many White House officials and senior aides, saying that this was something where the U.S. was assisting Israel in its defense as missiles and drones were coming in from Iran, but that it wouldn't go beyond that and that this was Israel's conflict to manage. So you're right to note
Not
that
anymore.
there was a shift in that pretty dramatically, and the president began to say that he was very concerned about Iran's ability to build and have a nuclear weapon, even contradicting several times his own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. In fact, just yesterday,
she said to Congress, so she either was lying under oath or I don't know what Trump is going on about, but she said that they were not close to having a nuclear bomb. So, like, this feels like Iraq, where can you hear that? It's fucking New York, man. It feels like Iraq, when they were like, oh, they have weapons of mass destruction, we gotta go in. It feels like that. But I feel like the American public are a little bit more discerning now. Post-Iraq, because of what we saw happened, but also because the younger folks, the boomers are different. The younger folks are they're growing up, especially millennials, and they're more politically active. Also, fucking 3 days from now, it's the New York Democratic primary for the mayoral position. So I gotta go vote. It's ranked choice voting. Obviously, I'm voting for Mamdani, but we'll focus on that on a different stream. Right now, we're focusing on going to war with Iran. What is this link? Bunker Buster tutorial. Okay, we'll play this after we finish this video.
Out, he said she's wrong, referring to her testimony in March about her doubts that Iran was as close as the president believes Iran was to having a nuclear weapon. And days before, he had said, I just don't think that she's right about that. And he dismissed her entirely. And then again yesterday, he said, I don't even care what my entire intelligence community says. I believe that they were just very close to having that ability. So we are also seeing that split in the last couple of days that the president himself has talked about uniquely, but that the intel community is at odds with, which is really, really significant here. I think that Vice President J.D. Vance and a couple of other people who have been key to the president in this decision-making did start to lay the groundwork a couple of days ago for this rationale of potentially dropping bombs in Iran, saying that this is a president who will respond with great force if he feels there's any risk to American assets or personnel. And we know that that was a little bit of a factor in this, that the president completely was arguing in a lot of his meetings with national security advisors that he was worried that there could be exposure to or retaliation to U.S. military personnel or U.S. interests abroad and also at home. And that was something that drove a little bit of this decision as well. But I think that you're going to now see also this major split in MAGA world play out in real time, with a lot of people in his base who were arguing quite publicly against this kind of military intervention from the U.S. And then some who were trying to back him up and say that this is a president who should be trusted.
I think she's wrong with that analysis. I don't think this is going to split. Hardcore MAGA are going to stay with them. And he was right. He was like, I can kill somebody on Fifth Ave and get away with it. And he's right. He's right.
For making these decisions and trying to argue that he, if he did it, would be in the right authority to do so. But I think he keeps saying that his supporters will love him no matter what. But I think this is a real question for the base and those millions of supporters who do have differing views on this, Rachel.
NBC News White House.
I think that's fucking cope. I think that's MSNBC cope. It's cool, Turg. We're just hanging out. It was an emergency stream, so I mean, I don't know. Did you? Okay, so I asked Tom this question, so I'm curious about you. One of my followers said that because I hadn't streamed for a while and not having a consistent schedule, Twitch doesn't notify you when I go live, even if you're following me. So how did you figure out that I was streaming? Did you get a Twitch notification or Discord one? That's curious. I'm just curious about that.
Correspondent Monica Alba joining us from Washington. Monica, thank you. I know it's going to be a long night. I really appreciate you being here with us.
Alrighty.
Of what Iran was doing, but Iran was allowed to have enrichment for domestic energy, civilian energy purposes. And I think kind of the Trump
we have not seen
here,
the blowback yet.
these,
Yeah,
early
absolutely
months.
not. Absolutely not. Twitch notification this time. Okay, great. That's good. So you and Tom have confirmed. Okay, let me open my camera just to refocus it, like the app. All right.
Of his presidency was, we just can't trust Iran at all. We can't trust them to have even a proclaimed civilian nuclear capacity. We believe that they are in possession of enough uranium.
This is not live.
B-2s that are needed to transport those bombs. They had never been used. We're seeing that that is the ordnance that was utilized in this one attack out of three.
Hold
the other
the
one,
fucking phone.
Going back right to the foundation of Iran.
Trump, U.S. struck 3 nuclear sites in Iran. So this dude's in Tel Aviv, Israel.
The Iranian Islamic Republic took over.
What do you mean, Turk?
Theocracy took over in 1979.
If there is
Took
blowback,
over
what do you think is
in
going to
part
happen?
By taking American diplomats hostage at the embassy in Tehran. The two nations, America and Iran, began, or the new Iran after the Shah was overthrown, began as enemies, began as bitter enemies. And we're seeing some of that revenge, some of that sentiment still playing out right now. This well of animosity now coming to the surface. President Trump in his remarks talked about all the limbs that Iranian car bombs and roadside bombs caused. He's referring specifically to Iraq. When the United States invaded Iraq, became entangled in that country's civil war, unleashed that country's civil war, Iran intervened. Iran intervened so that it would have influence over Iraq. Iran started attacking American soldiers so that American soldiers would leave Iraq and not try and have regime change across the border in Iran. And many Americans were killed and injured by Iranian roadside bombs in Iraq.
That's a fair theory.
The U.S. intervened.
Time
So there was a lot of history, a lot of military action that has taken place covertly or on let's say, on a foreign field of battle. But now you have the U.S. intervening directly, attacking Iran directly, which is something it has not done since the hostages were taken, since Jimmy Carter tried to rescue those hostages and had a failed rescue attempt. This is a very different U.S. military response to Operation Eagle Claw that was launched to try and rescue the hostages, and which ultimately changed the course of American politics, probably cost the president the election.
And those
I think it
hostages
did.
that
I
were
watched
released for
Zero Dark
444
30.
days, released in January when President Ronald Reagan was swearing in Washington,
Recently.
D.C. I'm just wondering, Richard, there are so few strong proxies left for Iran in the region, in no small part because of Israel's deterioration of Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. The United States has had a campaign against the Houthis recently. What are the other players that have been supporting Iran? And I'm thinking specifically Russia and China, not forgetting that Russia has been getting many of its drones, its armed drones, from Iran for its invasion in Ukraine.
It's huge, like the implications geopolitically, internationally, because Iran has a lot of oil. And the Chinese, who I believe is the second most powerful country in the world, has a lot of stake in it. They buy a lot of Iranian oil. So this is gonna fuck up the economy. And the Chinese are very, like, self-interested, which is not, I'm not trying to say that that's a bad thing. Like, every country is self-interested. You know what I mean? So if this affects them a lot in regards to the economy and other things, they might get involved. Like, in regards to, like, defense-wise, giving them military, like, equipment, but not directly getting involved, kind of like what's happening with Israel. But another path that could happen, another timeline would be like they just like condemn like in the UN and don't get involved, because that's also another way that would fuck up the economy. So you never know. You never know with China. They typically like to stay out of wars. Historically, that it's always been like in response to another country invading them. And I'm not saying this because I'm biased, because I'm Asian. I was debating somebody who lived in Hong Kong, and I was like talking about all this stuff, and I listened to her rationale, and she was giving examples, and I was like, that's actually a really good point. That actually makes sense. And she was talking about the different wars and the battles that happened in China. And I was like, that's kind of fair. But in regards to Taiwan and like the Philippines and all that stuff, I don't think that holds up anymore. So I don't think she's 100% right. But historically in the past, like the Japanese, you know, for example, they invaded China. So Turk, doesn't China ship all the basic materials for weapons to Russia and Iran? I don't know. You might be right. I don't know the percentage. I don't know. So that's, you know, I think that's something that people will analyze to the death, like tomorrow. And so far, I have a real life, like a life outside of this. So I haven't been able to like every single day keep on top of the numbers and the analysis, because like every day there has been like new waves of bombs. So like nobody knows how many people have actually died, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to, Putin on Iran's another nuclear site. Ooh, okay. We're gonna watch that. Thanks, Tom. I texted my dad. I don't think he's in China, actually. He might be traveling. I never know where my dad is. He's always flying somewhere. Busy man. You know, you can't really get accurate coverage of the Chinese sentiment when you're in the US. And there's also like translation like errors and cultural errors where it's like the implication is different and like the tone and intonation, and like there's a lot of things that factor in where like I would understand and my father would understand, like anybody in my, like, you know, like they would understand, but like the US wouldn't really understand because they would just go off of the words and like not, it's just different. Mistranslations is really the first step, and then the cultural thinking. So I am curious about what my father is going to say, but he might be busy right now. But yeah, I will update you guys either next stream or on my Twitter or on my Discord if I hear something interesting. Hi. Okay, we'll see what Putin said. The work goes on and our specialists are on site. It's about more than 200 people. And we agreed with the Israeli government that it will ensure their safety. What? We see today in Iran that despite the complexity of the internal political processes taking place, which we are aware of, I don't think there's any point going into detail. There's nevertheless a consolidation of society around the country's political leadership. Interesting. Happens almost every time and everywhere. That's what I said. We signed a contract of 2 more blocks at the... What? We have signed 2 more blocks at the B nuclear power plant. That's so interesting. But this was on 19th of June. So this isn't like breaking Tom. I don't know if any other government has kind of said anything. Have they? Has any other government like put out a statement yet? Like any NATO countries or like China or North Korea? I don't know. What's up, Eugene? Tom, it doesn't matter. It's not hit. And there's Russians there. Is that why they didn't go for it? I don't understand.
So on a state level, Jose, probably no one is going to intervene to help Iran tonight. They don't have a NATO. They don't have those kind of alliances. Russia, Vladimir Putin is very happy to buy drones, depends on Iranian drones, has been using them to great effectiveness in Ukraine. China buys a lot of cheap oil from Iran.
I just said this. You can't make this shit up.
And likes the fact that it has effectively cornered the Iranian market because so much of Iranian oil is sanctioned. Iranian market is largely focused on sending its fuel to China because it has no other choice. It can't operate internationally in an open way. But those military and economic relationships are not profound enough that Russia or China are going to intervene militarily directly anyway. There have been...
That's what I said earlier, not directly, but I think indirectly they might. They might. I don't know what their reaction is. You never know with China. I gotta talk to my friends and family there. But I don't see Russia intervening because they're embroiled in Ukraine. But they're closer. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I'm very intrigued about what the Chinese will say. I think that will have a huge effect on what's going to happen subsequently. Turg, you got your finger on the pulse of world affairs. Well...
reports that China or Russia could supply Iran with some weapons, but it seems unlikely that either one of them would risk a direct conflict over Iran. The regional powers, very unlikely. They have generally taken a position against Iran, particularly the Arab states. We're talking about Iran's ability to project power itself, and it still has some military capacity, although clearly less each day as Israel is carrying out these strikes, and now the U.S. is involved. And its militias are not what they used to be. Prime Minister Netanyahu has long wanted to do this operation.
He wanted to do it after
9/11. He wanted to do it, and each time there was a new president that he interacted with, he has been pushing this agenda. Time has come to attack Iran. He's given speeches in front of the UN. You can go back and see many, many times when Prime Minister Netanyahu has made the case that
he's been
the
wanting
world
war
must intervene
with
and
Iran
must attack
for
Iran,
forever.
and that the U.S. must get involved. He differed from the Mossad. He did with the Israeli intelligence agency, which at some stage said it wasn't necessary, it was too risky. He's been pushing this agenda for a long time, and now had the ability to do it. He had a friend in President Trump who agreed, and Iran's proxies have already been effectively eliminated by several wars that Israel has launched since October 7th, coming up on 2 years this October.
No action possible. Words, of course, we're seeing some words already of support for Iran by its allies in this part of the world, and I'm thinking Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela that have been a strong supporter of Iran, because Iran has been a strong supporter of those three dictatorships going back years. Richard Engel, thank you very much. We just got a new Truth Social post from President Trump, and I want to read it to you as you see
Why
it
is it in all caps? I don't understand. He's so weird.
on your screen right there. It says, any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than was witnessed tonight. For more, let's bring in our NBC News Pentagon correspondent, Courtney Cubie. Courtney, this is a very clear statement by the president that he expects no retaliation against the United States by the Iranian regime.
Yeah, candidly, Jose, I thought that would be a message that the president would have really hammered.
I don't know. I feel like any retaliation would be towards Israel. I don't think it would be directly with the US. Like after all of this has happened.
Hammered home in his statement less than an hour ago now. So it's interesting that only moments after he finished speaking from the White House, he put out a statement saying this is clearly an indication that there is this ongoing concern that Iran or Iranian proxy groups or networks are going to retaliate against the United States. And there are so many assets that are already there forward in the region. There's U.S. military, there's also diplomatic assets. But the U.S. military and the defense officials who I'm speaking with are particularly concerned about those bases there. The U.S. has moved additional personnel into the region in recent months. Now, a lot of that is defensive in nature, right? They've put additional ground-based interceptors in. There's more ships in the area. There's now 2 carrier strike groups in the CENTCOM area. Destroyers have moved in closer to Israel in recent days. That is for the defense of Israel, but they can also serve to defend Americans and American assets in the region. In addition to that, the U.S. has brought in additional aircraft and fighter jets in recent days and weeks, and that is also so that they can shoot down incoming projectiles. Remember, the U.S. Air Force was pivotal when in one of these now numerous back and forths between Iran and Israel since October 7th, when the U.S. Air Force was up in the air shooting down multiple projectiles, a lot of drones that were coming from Iran launched towards Israel. Now, I suspect that message from President Trump is as much aimed at big Iran as it is at these proxy groups. There's a lot of concern about some of the smaller bases and where the U.S. has, a small number of troops in Iraq and in Syria. They aren't as heavily fortified, and with so many of those proxy networks that really have freedom of movement and maneuver space around them, that is one of the big concerns. Now, Jose, I can also tell you we're learning a little bit more detail about what the U.S. did in Iran tonight. We know that those 3 strikes were, those 3 sites were targeted, but we now know that a big part of that targeting effort was actually conducted by the United States Navy. U.S. submarines launched off about 30 Tomahawk missiles known as TLAMs. Those
You were right. Who was talking about that? Was it Tom or was it Turg?
Are launched from the submarines. They impacted at least 2 of those sites at Isfahan and at Natanz, Jose. Again, the president saying that these strikes completely and totally obliterated the sites, but we'll have to wait and see when daylight hits exactly how much damage was done there.
Courtney Cubie, thank you so very much. I want to go back to our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander.
There's a little bit of a delay because I paused it. This is not live. But I did want to show you something that I pulled up. First Tom's thing. Okay, so right now we have 2 aircraft carriers in the region, 9 destroyers, and multiple fighter wings gathered in the Middle East. Yep. The second aircraft carrier is new. I know that. It's so crazy that, like, we have the tech to fucking launch, like, huge missiles through multiple mediums. Like, I forget what it's called in physics. From sea to air to ground. Like, that's insane. Okay, there are approximately 40,000 U.S. troops in the area currently. That is insane. Why do we have 40,000 troops on the ground in the Middle East. That's crazy. Nobody talks about that shit. Okay, let's play this. Let's see what Netanyahu said. President Trump and I often say peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. All right.
To target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
Bro, fuck this. Ugh, this is so annoying. He's so annoying. He's so annoying. Turg, a streamer showed the little bases U.S. had in the region. Some look like the size of a hospital complex. Tom, I think the closest U.S. air bases to Iran is okay, I don't have my glasses or contacts on. Adana, Turkey. Those planes could have taken off from Turkey. Who knows? I thought I saw that there are bases not just in Turkey. I think they have nukes in Turkey, but I don't know. They definitely have nukes in Israel. But I've definitely seen like scattered throughout the Middle East and the coast, American bases, big or small. I don't know. They didn't mention it when I was watching. Okay, fucking hate Netanyahu. Should we watch Al Jazeera for a little bit? See what they're
Facilities
talking
earlier
about?
today. Now, just before President Trump delivered his address, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a
Do
pre-recorded
you-
video statement on the U.S.
We just watched that. What the fuck? Do you, Turg, did you miss the, short, statement to the nation that Trump, did? I'm sure we can play that. I'm sure we can play that. Okay, I'm gonna play this link that you sent, Tom, and then, I'm gonna find the speech.
There are different bunker buster bombs of different caliber, but what sets it apart from the rest is this GBU-57, which is typically delivered by the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. Due to the bomb's large size and weight, the aircraft can carry only 2 of these weapons in its bomb bay compartments. While it lacks thrusters, the weapon is equipped with 4 active lattice fins and a precision guidance system that enables it to glide accurately to its target using military-grade GPS. Constructed from a specially designed high-performance steel alloy, using its weight when falling under gravity to penetrate or dig itself up to 200 feet of underground soil or concrete. We'll also look into the difference between the massive ordnance
we'll play that
penetrator
after
and the
this.
mother of all bombs with step-by-step process of how they work, all in the video ahead. To give you an idea of the varying levels of penetration capability among different bunker buster bombs, let's compare a few examples. First, we have the BLU-109, also pronounced blue. It is a 2,000-pound or bomb developed in the 1970s. This weapon is capable of penetrating approximately 1.8 meters or about 5 feet of reinforced.
That's weak. That's weak. That's like shorter than me. What the fuck?
Concrete. Next, we move on to the GBU-28, which is equipped with a laser-guided system at its front. This bomb can penetrate to a depth of nearly 6 meters, equivalent to roughly 20 feet, which is as tall as a 2-story building. However, neither of these compares to the massive capabilities of the GBU-57, also known as the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. It can penetrate over 60 meters into the ground, around 200 feet. To put that into perspective, this depth is comparable to the height of a 20-story building, depending on the floor heights. These examples demonstrate the significant advancements and differences in penetration levels among these specialized weapons. Let's put an average human here against this weapon, which is 20.
I don't know if you guys remember, but we definitely watched a military video before all of this shit happened about like the different size of bombs and stuff. I don't know if you remember.
0.5 feet long, giving it a streamlined aerodynamic shape that is crucial for stability and precision. With a diameter of 31.5 inches and weighing an incredible 30,000 pounds, translating to approximately 14,000 kilograms. It utilizes its massive weight to generate the kinetic energy required for deep penetration. This heavy, compact design enables it to break through over 200 feet of reinforced concrete, making it one of the most effective bunker-busting munitions in the world.
Yeah, but it was
Let's
like
take a look at the parts of this weapon.
Right? The Iranian.
The most important part is the body casing made of hardened ferrocobalt alloy to withstand impact. Interestingly, the body comprises more than 80% of the bomb's total weight. Inside this cover, you will find the following components. At the front is the nose fuse well, all of which are joined by a fuse conduit.
Okay, Tom.
Sandwiched within this rod is the explosive-filled 5,000-pound warhead, which translates to approximately 2,267 kilograms. This conduit then connects to a tail fuse, which, interestingly, is the main detonator and is crucial for delayed action. Moving to the back, nestled inside the tail, we discover the intricacies of its guidance system. Here, the inertial guidance kit collaborates seamlessly with a military-grade global positioning unit.
That's a pretty cool plane. I gotta admit, that is a pretty cool plane. All right, this is not a cool activity, but this is a pretty cool plane.
Ensuring precise navigation towards its intended target. Alongside these components, one can find the adapter ring, which facilitates the attachment of the telemetry antenna, crucial for transmitting data, as well as the encryption key battery, which safeguards sensitive information. Venturing deeper into its structure, we encounter the thermal batteries vital for powering the system and the composite fins strategically positioned to aid in directing the missile towards its objective. These fins, meticulously controlled by internal gears, maneuver with precision, responding to commands to adjust the trajectory accurately. Let's take a look at the smaller bunker buster and how it works. It has a laser sensor at the front, and just behind that are adjustable fins. In the midsection, there is a warhead that weighs approximately 650 pounds containing tritonal explosive. This is a mixture of 80% TNT and 20% aluminum powder. Finally, we have the retractable fins at the rear. To give you a better sense of its size, comparing it to a person can be helpful. The casing has a length of approximately 19 feet long, which translates to around 5 meters. This section is made of an artillery barrel, which is very strong, and has a diameter of 14.5 inches, which translates to around 37 centimeters, making it relatively narrow. They intentionally made the smaller cross-sectional area. This means the bomb displaces less material, whether earth or concrete, as it penetrates layers of reinforced bunkers or building. The smaller cross-section allows it to enter deep into buildings, potentially avoiding steel and concrete. Let's move back to the MOP and its cost factor. The development cost of the GBU-57 is estimated to be between $400 and $500 million, with its production price per unit around $3.5 million. Meanwhile, the GBU-28, a 4,000-pound bomb, costs approximately $100,000 to $150,000 per unit. While the per unit cost of the BLU-109 is approximately $25,000 to $84,000 for each JDAM kit. Let's take a look at how this works. Step 1. The bomb deployment platform, as previously mentioned, a B-2 stealth bomber flies at a very high altitude. When the aircraft reaches the designated location and the conditions are optimal, it releases the weapon. The bomb is designed for precision, and the deployment height plays a crucial role in its trajectory and effectiveness. Then step 2 comes the targeting precision. The bomb is outfitted with advanced guidance technology, including GPS and inertial navigation systems, which are military-grade satellites. Then comes step 3, that is adjusting the trajectory. The guidance information and data is then transmitted to the bomb's 4-lattice motors fins located at the rear. These fins can move and adjust in real time, allowing the bomb to correct its course as it descends under the force of gravity. These adjustments are essential because the weapon does not have thrusters to change its trajectory. Instead, it relies on the movement of these fins and the high-altitude drop to control its flight path. This is why the bomb must be deployed from a very high altitude so it has enough time and distance to adjust its trajectory accurately. Here comes the most difficult part, that is step 4, impact and penetration. The bomb, known as the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, weighs approximately 30,000 pounds, which is around 14,000 kilograms. When it reaches its target, it strikes with immense force, designed to penetrate deep into hardened structures, such as bunkers. The energy upon impact allows the bomb to bury itself over 200 feet into reinforced concrete, ensuring it delivers its payload precisely where it is intended for maximum
You were right,
effect.
Tom.
Finally, step 5 involves the tricky part of arming the weapon. It was installed with 2 SDB fuses. Double fuses are required as a backup. The first is for G-sensing and the second is the time delay fuse. Why the redesign was necessary, it was to ensure that the bomb could strike facilities buried beneath significant layers of hardened material. For this reason, the fuses are placed at the rear of the bomb to prevent them from being damaged. Once the time delay or the G-sensing fuse reaches its destination, it can blow up, creating a mini earthquake that can bury bunkers and 20-story buildings inside them. Many people often confuse the Massive Ordnance Penetrator MOP with the mother of all bombs, MOAB, which stands for Massive Ordnance Air Blast. The mother of all bombs weighs approximately 21,600 pounds and is designed to detonate above the ground, creating a massive shockwave and blast radius. However, unlike the MOP, it does not have penetration capabilities. This MOP is capable of digging up to 200 feet underground before exploding. While the Massive Ordnance Penetrator can be deployed from bombers such as the B-2 Spirit aircraft.
Right, Tom? Right?
But this is not the case with the mother of all bombs is so large that it must be delivered via a C-130 aircraft using a pallet system. Once deployed, the bomb is dragged by a parachute and falls under gravity, guided by an inertial navigation system and military-grade GPS.
Did they use that?
On April 13, the U.S. dropped one of its largest non-nuclear bombs on a tunnel complex in eastern Afghanistan. Okay. When it detonated, the blast sucked all the oxygen out of the caves. We make original videos from scratch, so please do subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos.
Yo, that's crazy. Okay, I am gonna subscribe. Hold on. I'm gonna put up the full speech.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel.
Yeah, envy.
They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight.
Well, that's true.
Not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago.
Okay, that's the
Tomorrow,
only
General
thing.
Kane.
That's the only thing I agree with that he said so far. I spent time overseas, so I think my view on the military, the importance of that, I think it's a little bit more nuanced than the typical left wing, people.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yo, did you see JD's face when he tried to mention God? That was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, that was just a short 4-minute, just under 4-minute speech. This is insane. Tomorrow's Sunday. I haven't figured out my schedule yet. Depending on what I wake up to or what the world wakes up to, I might stream again. Because I do want to get more clarity, because this is super breaking. All we got is speculation and initial news. We don't have the responses from the big powerful nations.
This becoming some kind of prolonged war of attrition, but is there
Take a look
concern
at the
that this
last
could
link?
spill out
Okay.
into a greater conflict in the region?
Well, there are always risks when the U.S. undertakes military action. There's also risks with endless diplomacy. And President Trump lost patience with the diplomatic process as the Iranians did not take his offers seriously. They consistently rejected them. They stalled, and they were using delay tactics. And it's not just President Trump who the Iranians have repudiated diplomatically. They also repudiated President Biden diplomatically in his offers to revive the JCPOA. So this strike was a long time coming, and the Iranians badly miscalculated.
Okay, Tom, I have a question. See, I've been it's hard to keep up because I have a life. Okay, so your link. This was 7 minutes ago. Yeah, so I don't know, 20 minutes ago. This is CNN. U.S. used 6 B-2 bombers to drop 12 bunker busters on Fordo, whatever. The U.S. Fordo is a nuclear site in Iran. Navy submarines fired 30 T-LAM cruise missiles at 2 other sites. And a B-2 dropped 2 bunker busters on I think I'm not even going to try to pronounce these things, the official said. Okay, so like I was right for one of them, and then you guys were right on the other sites. So thank you for your input. What the fuck is happening here? Yo, Twitter is out of control, and so is TikTok right now. Oh, we just watched this video, so we are ahead. Wait, what the fuck? I mean, I'm in New York right now. I hope we are safe.
Knew the United States has the capability to destroy its nuclear program, but they've always doubted that the U.S. had the will to do so. If you listen closely to Iranian officials over the years, they have always doubted that the military option was real. But President Trump tonight demonstrated that it was real, and it happened, and that's very important.
Throughout the course of the last week since Israel launched its strikes on Iran, we have been hearing from the Israelis that they have struck Natanz, for example, and Isfahan at a different time. We heard that they had done that. Talk us through why Fordow was so significant and why it needed American intervention.
Fordow was very significant because it was buried in a mountain, and the United States developed a bomb, the massive ordnance penetrator, to pierce that mountain and destroy the nuclear facility. And so that is why Fordow was highly significant for the U.S. to strike, because Israel did not necessarily have the same capabilities that the United States had to do so, like the massive ordnance penetrator and the B-2 as the delivery vehicle for that bomb. So that is why it's significant, and the Fordow nuclear facility was one that was untouched amid Israel's campaign around Iran militarily that had started a few days ago. Israel had taken strikes at Natanz and Isfahan. It looks like the United States had also taken strikes at Natanz and Isfahan to clean up and make sure that Israel fully destroyed the program in those sites. And the United States also, of course, destroyed the Fordow nuclear facility tonight with a bomb.
I think that's cope. We don't know that yet. We really don't know that yet. That might be cope. I don't know. Try to pronounce. Tom, what are you trying to like set me up for here? Tom, no, according to CNN, I'm wrong, and it's double the more bunker busters. What? See, this is what I mean. Like, we're going back and forth. We don't know the exact numbers. We don't know a lot of things. So it's all speculation right now. I'm sure one of the stories that is out there right now is correct. But we don't know which one.
Jason.
And there's a lag because this is live. And it's not live. I've paused it multiple times.
Could it be plausible, and this is, you know, these are things that have been discussed here in Israel in the conversations I've been having, is that many of the materials could have been already moved from these sites?
That's what I said earlier.
Well, I think Iranian officials had threatened that was going to be the case. I think that the U.S. and Israel likely have very good intelligence on the ground. And I think Israel has proven that over the last week as to where these materials are. And so I think that was part of the strike package in ensuring those materials were destroyed alongside the sites that President Trump announced in his post.
And Jason, is there a possibility? I mean, we've seen in the last week scientists taken out, and these now nuclear facilities have also been taken out. That doesn't prevent Iran from, you know, trying over the course of the next few years to resurrect its program.
Right. The Iranians calculated that they could survive a strike by the United States on its nuclear program. They have preferred a strike as opposed to agreeing to zero enrichment in Iran, which was President Trump's red line. And so I have no doubt the Iranians will try to rebuild their nuclear program in some way. They will also try to rebuild their missile and drone program, which has been badly damaged by Israel's strikes as well. The Iranians play a very long game, and they have a lot of patience, but this is an unprecedented amount of devastation that they have suffered in just a week. And so this is going to take time. It's not only going to take time, it's going to take money. And let's not forget that Iran is under punishing American sanctions, and it's going to deprive and starve the regime of the resources that are necessary to fully rebuild these programs. So Iran is in a very big hole right now.
That was Jason Brodsky there speaking to my colleague Yalda Hakim a little earlier. And Yalda also spoke to former U.S. diplomat Alan Eyre, who said he was doubtful that these strikes by the U.S. on Iran will significantly weaken the country's nuclear program.
Suffice it to say, I'm unpleasantly surprised by these events. I was hoping that this administration would not do that. I don't think that this strike will in any way, well, at least permanently end Iran's nuclear program. They'd already moved much of the relevant material out of their nuclear sites. I don't think this will lead for the Iranians to sue for peace. So it's now in the Iranians' hands. I don't. The Iranian leadership that exists.
It looks like at least the majority of it has been successful. I don't know if they're going to release it, period. Why would they release it? I feel like there's I don't know. I feel like there would be too much. Would that compromise the U.S. military? I don't know. Or would that show off the might and scare people? Which is the whole point of this.
Existed about 10 days ago would have been relatively prudent and not rush to attack U.S. forces. I think that's still the case. I think an immediate widespread attack on U.S. forces in the region is unlikely, but I think the probability of a wider escalation and continuation of this war is greater now than it was a few hours ago.
And Alan, no doubt the conversations that the president would have asked questions about the day after. And part of that calculation would have been, I guess, sure, even though this is the role of the dice, that he wouldn't want to see this prolonged into a bigger conflict that would drag the United States in. Are you saying that you're concerned that the day after now looks like a more destabilized region?
I don't think there was significant, or at least significant talk about the day after, at least with the requisite expertise. I think that whatever form of Iranian government survives, whether it's this one or a more nationalist, a more militarized one, or whether this regime in fact stays in power, they're not necessarily more likely to give up their nuclear program. So if President Trump thinks this will cause the Iranians to sue for peace and give up their nuclear energy program, I don't see that happening. But again, there's just so much that's unknown. President Trump obviously is seeing intelligence that I don't, and so decided to roll the dice. The question now is, does Israel stop bombing? I mean, I saw some Israeli sources saying they consider the nuclear program eliminated, but what's nuclear's war goal? What is Israel trying to get out of this? They're not just trying to end Israel's nuclear program, they're also trying to, as they've admitted, destabilize the current Iranian government.
Yeah.
I just want to unpack some of the things you
said.
That's always good. First of all, the idea that, and that has been floating around in the last few days, with the Iranians themselves saying that they would be moving some of the material out of these sites. Just talk us through that in terms of, these sites have been hit, especially Fordow was in these sites of the United States and Israel. But you believe that material, the essential material that was needed has already been moved to other places?
I think it's highly likely. I think that Iran's nuclear program the hardware is geographically dispersed, and it's impossible to eliminate it to the extent that it can't be reconstituted if there is a political will by the Iranian government to do so. Obviously, we can talk about greater or lesser amounts of time it would take to reconstitute that. But the key variable here is, will Israeli and U.S. military action be such that it causes the people running Iran to renounce the nuclear program. And I don't think we're there yet.
know.
And I
I
don't
don't
think you
think
can get
so.
there kinetically by bombing Iran.
I think short of a nuke,
And,
which would be diabolical, I think short of a nuke, I don't think Iran's gonna surrender kind of like this. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But because I don't have the intel that the president has. But like what I'm afraid of is if they're like what do you call it? The Japanese? Is it the kamikaze? I don't know. Like they'll like fight to the death. What is that link, Tom? You gotta explain.
Alan, you have dealt with the Iranians. You're privy to the JCPOA, the nuclear deal that President Obama struck. Just talk us through, the interactions then, and was there a sense that they were willing then versus where they are now?
Certainly, back then they were willing to cap the amount they enriched, the type of centrifuges they had, the level to which they enriched uranium, and also to accept vastly greater verification measures and vastly greater transparency into their nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of sanctions. So when we were doing this, neither side got all they wanted. As
Linked to
President
what,
Obama
though,
said,
Tom?
he would have preferred to not have one centrifuge spinning. But back then we got a deal that was good enough, and the key variables back then were we were able to drastically limit the efficiency, the scope, the activities of Iran's nuclear program, and also vastly increase our ability to look into it. And I think it's likely now, it's too soon to tell, that we're going to lose, obviously, that transparency, our ability to look into Iran's nuclear program on the day after.
You also mentioned there that perhaps Israel is not just looking at the elimination of Iran's nuclear program, but also has openly talked about regime change at different points and destabilizing the regime. But do you feel that that is also not plausible?
I mean, there's no perhaps. The Israeli Minister of Defense said we're looking to eliminate the nuclear program, eliminate their missile production capabilities, and eliminate their axis of terrorism, and also destabilize the Iranian regime and drive people out of Tehran. There's no indication yet on that last goal, destabilizing the government, that they've been successful. According even to Israeli press, I was reading something recently.
I'm gonna pause this for a second, because I think, Turg, you have a good point. That is another contentious point that could drag more people into the war, because they could close like a very important shipping lane. Yes, the Strait of I'm gonna try to say it. Hormuz? I don't know, whatever. That's strait. So that's gonna affect the economy, commerce, and China is very focused on that. So I don't know. We're gonna have to see. I'm very, very, very curious what China is gonna do. Very curious, because that could change everything. If they back Iran, that would change everything. But I don't see them fully backing Iran. I don't know. Dude, that's why they did it on Saturday. Because they want like the uncertainty in the stock market to rebound by Monday. But I don't know, man. It's kind of like declaring war on another country. MV, they won't close it. They'll use the act of closing it as leverage to get help from China. Maybe. You might be right, MV, because they're the biggest, if not the only, buyer of their cheap oil. So we'll see what China does. I don't know what the Chinese are saying right now. huge country, but it's 12 p.m. 12 a.m. 12 p.m. I don't know. Fuck. Tom, and if Iran blocks the Hormuz on Monday, that is what Tom's link says. Ooh, okay, I see. Okay, let's see. Breaking. An advisor to Iran's supreme leader says Iran is now prepared to launch missiles at U.S. Navy ships in Bahrain and close the Strait of H to U.S., British, German, and French vessels in retaliation for attacks on its nuclear facilities. This was about 13 minutes ago. This was from open source intel. How careful? How reliable is this? Do we know? Because, like, just because it has a check mark now means nothing. I heard they can block it with wreckage and sea mines. Yo, I believe that. I believe that. This is not what I thought today was gonna culminate to. It's always those days where you're like, you don't expect anything to happen. That's when it happens. MV, I mean, being prepared is to do something and actually doing it are two different things. True. Steak and lobster time. Yeah, for me, it's like I'm thinking, do I open a bottle of wine? Because I just finished a bottle of beer. And I feel like this warrants... I'm allowed to drink because what the fuck is going on right now? You know? I haven't eaten dinner, so... But it's like 12. I would love steak and lobster. Maybe I should get, like, DoorDash. Okay, let's focus.
Recently in the Jerusalem Times, so far the Israeli intelligence is indicating that the current Iranian regime is still firmly in control of all its organs of power.
Yeah, I know,
Obviously, it's
Tom.
taken a
We
great
saw
hit
that.
kinetically. But if the Israeli government is trying to topple this regime and replace it with a more user-friendly government to the West and to Israel.
Okay, my father just said, he responded. He said, up to now, the Chinese government has not said anything, exclamation mark. I'll keep checking with him. And like I said, for anybody who wasn't here earlier, like, I would like to see the actual speech and translation from Asian countries rather than Western interpretations of it, because lost in translation.
There's no indications that we're starting to see that yet. There's been a significant rally around the flag effect by the Iranian people, and at least anecdotally, I hear that whereas before there was a lot of pro-Israeli sentiment in Iran,
What?
at least more so than in the neighboring Arab countries, there certainly is far less of that now.
Well, one of the biggest questions now is how Iran will respond and what the scale of that response will be. The initial reaction from Iranian media suggests there may still be escalation to come in this conflict. In a striking message, the presenter on Iran's state media channel, Mehr News Agency, claimed every U.S. citizen had now become a target.
We were negotiating with the Americans when we were attacked. You made this choice. You started this. The 40 to 50,000 American soldiers in the region are now legitimate targets. Every American citizen and soldier is a legitimate target. We were negotiating, we were using diplomacy, but now you've chosen for the blood of your soldiers to be spilt. The American president in the White House chose to collect the coffins of 40 to 50,000 American soldiers. We will start this, and we will show not only your military presence or military bases in the region, even the presidency of Trump will not be in existence anymore.
You are watching
That's
Sky
a big
News. Coming
threat.
up, I'll be speaking to an arms and proliferation expert as the United States targets Iran's
Asian
nuclear
food?
facilities.
Sorry, I'm so hungry. This
I'm
is
Dominic Waghorn.
crazy. What is this? Is this weather? What is this? I don't understand. What are these numbers? Is it weather? Yeah, it's got to be weather, right? In Celsius. It's 28 degrees in Tel Aviv. 23 in Istanbul. Yeah, it's got to be weather. Yeah, down here is in the 40s. Yeah, it's got to be weather. Yeah, I go by Celsius. Hi, the red man. What's up? Crazy shit's happening, right? Yeah, we're not gonna watch weather, okay?
Strikes on Iran, American assets in the region.
The United States.
Chilling? How about you? Red man. Bruh. I think US is at war with Iran. We just bombed them. What's going on? I don't watch the news. Oh my god. All right, chat. Can somebody inform him, please?
It's significant assets in and around the Gulf region. 5 Air Force expeditionary wings are based in the Gulf, 2 in Kuwait, 1 each in the UAE and Saudi Arabia that include squadrons of F-15 and
This is the Strait, is it not? That we were just talking about? This is the Strait. The little curve right above my cam. I think that's like the linchpin. I don't know.
16 fighter jets.
Tom, nothing
The 5th
happened.
Air Force Expeditionary Wing, based in Qatar, has no offensive capabilities of its own,
Qatar.
but provides extensive intelligence and air refueling for Air Force units in the region. The number of air defense sites has grown over the last 18 months, with new ones built in Kuwait and a proposed site for an additional missile defense system in Qatar. The powerful US Fifth Fleet is based in Bahrain in the Arabian Gulf. The Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group has its own air wing and fleet of accompanying ships capable of attacking targets deep inland off the coast of Yemen in the Arabian Sea.
Earlier, we spoke to Shahram Akbarzadeh, the director of the Middle East Studies Forum at Deakin University in Australia and a senior fellow at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs in Doha. He says the strikes on Iran will not lead to a regime change in Tehran that the US and Israel are hoping for.
I guess the most obvious precedent is what the United States did in relation to Iraq. The United States organized a coalition of the willing to topple Saddam Hussein under the false pretense that he was developing weapons of mass destruction.
That's what I said earlier.
It happened that there were no WMDs in Iraq, that it was all a lie, and the United States plunged Iraq into decades of crisis and anarchy. So I think that's the precedent, and I think that tells us why Netanyahu has been pushing Trump to get engaged, because they knew they couldn't destroy Iran's nuclear facilities, they could only damage it, and also they knew that with US involvement, they would set in motion a process of regime change. So Netanyahu's ultimate goal has always been deposing the clerical regime in Iran, and he knew that the only way to achieve it is through US involvement. So I think what's going on right now is that Trump is really going along with Bibi's, Netanyahu's playbook in enforcing and enacting a regime change in Iran, just like they did in Iraq. What this attack has done is it has basically significantly eliminated and removed the threat of a popular uprising in the country.
Okay, I just ordered food. I'm
idea,
sorry.
the
I'm
logic
really
behind
hungry. I
the
haven't eaten.
Netanyahu attack and the US attack is that this kind of military intervention would bring about a popular uprising to depose the government. basing on the assessment that the government in Iran is unpopular and that it is ready to be toppled over. The
Oh
fact
my
of the matter
God. The picture of Trump in his MAGA hat in the White House Situation Room. That is so staged. There's no shot he was wearing that like throughout the whole meeting. That's crazy. Hi Fool, thanks for the raid. Hope you had a good stream.
is when you have a foreign intervention and foreign military attack, that is only going to galvanize the
Crazy shit's
population
happening, right,
behind
Paul?
the government, even though the government in Iran is very, very unpopular. So the Iranian response to the U.S. military attack will be costly in terms of the military.
Yeah, you did until this kicked off.
Military
Yeah,
price
I'm
Iran
opposite.
has to pay, because we know
I
that
didn't
Iranian
stream
military,
until this kicked
conventional military, is really no match for the U.S. But politically,
nice to see you too.
the regime will
Always.
consolidate and benefit from this experience.
Hello, I'm Foliba Tiboyo watching Al Jazeera live from Doha. It's just past 4 GMT, midnight in Washington, D.C., and 7:30 a.m. in Tehran. And this is our continuing coverage of the U.S. military strikes on Iran. U.S. President Donald Trump says America's military has conducted what he describes as very successful strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. The Fordo enrichment plant is estimated to be 80 meters underground. It's well out of reach of Israeli missiles. Natanz is Iran's largest nuclear site and can enrich uranium to 60%. It's heavily fortified with underground infrastructure. The third site is Isfahan, which houses a uranium conversion plant. Now, President Trump says a full payload of bombs was dropped on each Iranian nuclear site. He says all 3 facilities have been, quote, obliterated. In acknowledging the attacks, Iran
Promise
says
not to make
personnel
me
were
a handmaid,
evacuated some time ago.
bro. Fool. That is so dark, bruh.
In his address to the nation, President Trump said the aim of the U.S. involvement was to destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and to stop any nuclear threat. He urged Iran to make peace quickly or risk further military action.
What could be the only thing
Iran to-
bigger is a nuke? The only thing bigger is a nuke. I don't know, man. Escape to Canada. It's what happens next, right? I don't know. I hope not. I really hope not, fool. But yeah. I think my dad has a Canadian passport. So I technically could get one too. Huh. I'm gonna look into that.
Bully of the Middle East.
Everybody get your fucking passports. I found out a few months ago or whatever. It was recent. I was like, doesn't everybody have a passport? And then I Googled it. And it's like, not everyone has a passport. It was like ridiculous in America. How many people? It is 56%, which is crazy. Like, what I'm telling you right now from my experience is to get a passport. Get a passport now. Multiple if you can. Because we don't know if they're going to be... If this goes to shit, I don't know. Certain countries might not let Americans go in. The power of the American passport might go down, which is like, what that means is like how many countries you can enter into basically without a visa, basically. So in recent years, yes, that's lowered the power of the American passport. I think Singapore now has the most powerful passport. Anyway, just try to get multiple passports, and if you can, from like this part of the world, the western part, and then the eastern part of the world, because we don't know who's going to win. Canada is very open in these situations. Yeah, because Canadians are nice. They don't drop bombs on people. Yeah, and fucking gun. Don't even get me started with guns.
Must now make peace. If they do not,
Doesn't
future
matter,
attacks
Turk.
would be
Just
far
get a
greater
passport, man.
and a
You
lot
need to
easier.
run.
For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has thanked.
So Benjamin Redman, we watched Benjamin Netanyahu's speech. I think it's this one. He was like, peace through strength. And I was just like, what the fuck? That makes no fucking sense. No sense. Yeah, I mean, it could cause like terrorist attacks in the mainland America, and that's scary, especially because I live in New York. But it could also cause like more discrimination and hate crimes on Muslims. So that's also fucked. I think both is gonna happen. Yo, don't say that, Tom. That's scary. And that shit would totally happen in New York too. The fuck? It's fucking scary. Okay, Tom, let's see what you linked this time. Okay, I'm a little terrified. CNN reports that along with the Tomahawk cruise missiles, another US USAF B-12 stealth bomber dropped a pair of GBU massive ordnance penetrators on Iran's Natanz nuclear enrichment facility. This is a penetration test. Stay away from tall buildings. Dude, everywhere is tall buildings. I'm in Manhattan and I live in an apartment. Everywhere is tall buildings. I'm super close to the Empire State. It's crazy. I'm cooked. If something happens, yeah. How are you, Turk? How are you with power and water? Failure, good for a few days. What? Yeah, it was kind of like right before COVID hit like New York. I was down in Atlanta. But my mom, she's in Hong Kong, right? She messaged me and she was like, yeah, it's going to get bad. And I'm like, okay. And I ran to Home Depot and stocked up. And I was like talking to Uber drivers in America. I was like, what do you guys think about this, potential like virus? And nobody fucking believed me until it hit. I was like saying like, no one's going to take it seriously until it hits New York. And then when it hit New York and a bunch of people died, people started wearing masks and taking it seriously. So, but yeah, you're right, Turk. I should go tomorrow and like stock up on shit. Fool. Then always stay close to a subway and not subway for what does that mean? Sneakies? I don't know what that means. Ooh, and you love the Northwest apartment look. What? Sandwich. Dude, I don't think we'd be safe in the subway. It's not that deep. If they're gonna bomb something, there could be suicide bomber on one of the trains. The missiles could penetrate easily into the subway. Yo, that's crazy. Let's watch it again. Wow. Yeah, no one's surviving that. And if anybody was in that facility, yeah, they're dead. Yeah, that is some serious penetration. Yeah, I was thinking that like when we were watching some of the videos on like the different missiles that were like launched. They kept saying things like this and I was like, I'm not going to say it, but that's what I'm thinking. But you said it. He's so annoying. He's so annoying.
The U.S. for its support. He congratulated President Trump for what he calls a bold decision that he says will change history. Well, we have correspondents across the region covering this breaking news story in Tehran, Amman, but first we go to Washington, D.C., the U.S.
There is no
capital.
safe
Rosalind
evac
Jordan is there
if we're
for us.
living in New York.
Tell us more about what the president has said tonight in
Nobody even knows
justifying
where,
these
like,
strikes on Iran, Ross.
Nuclear bunkers are.
The U.S. President Donald Trump is claiming that Iran has posed an existential threat not just to Israel, but to the United States because of its refusal to stop enriching uranium, and that the U.S. essentially now had no choice but to take out the 3 facilities that it says are responsible for bringing Iran
look what we
much
just
closer.
saw. What we just saw, like the test of that bomb. There is no that would all the subways would be fucked. I don't know which subway line, but they'd be fucked. You have an evac bag? I guess I have. Do I have an evac? I might have like not an evac bag, but like a pandemic box that I created at the start of the pandemic. So I might have some stuff in there, but I think nuclear war is different to like what you need for nuclear war is different to what you need for a pandemic. There is some overlap, but different. I think I do have some life straws, and I think I also bought pills for radiation. So I think I have that. Yeah, the iodine. Trainers, yes, I have those. Backpack, I have a small one. I need a bigger one. Yeah, I don't have walking boots, but that would be cute.
To producing nuclear weapons. Now, we have not seen any physical evidence of these strikes. We only have the U.S. President's comments first on social media and then in a brief national address at O2G on Sunday,
it's not a fucking
exclaiming
Gucci bag.
that these facilities had been targeted and that Fordo, the
I have eye
facility
protection, I have
that was seen as the most difficult to reach, had been, in his words, completely obliterated. Now, the decision to go ahead and strike Isfahan, Fordo, and Natanz has been met with swift condemnation by most Democrats in Congress. The
Fuck you, Democrats. We don't need your words. What are you doing, Dems? All this time, you haven't been able to stand up to anything. And you're just gonna, like, basically write a strongly worded letter? Like, this is ridiculous. Just condemning it. Of course we're gonna condemn it. Like, come on. Turk, fashion before function. You can have both, okay? You can have both.
Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is claiming this is grounds for impeachment. Other senators have said that this act was illegal. They're calling for an immediate vote on a war powers resolution to prevent the U.S. president from continuing to carry out these actions. However, the Senate Republican leadership and the House Republican leadership, Mike Johnson, the Speaker, John Thune, the Majority Leader, have both endorsed and praised Donald Trump's decision to carry out these attacks on Iranian military sites on Saturday evening.
Right. So those are the initial reactions there in Washington, and there were already divisions in Congress, Ross, regarding the legality and the necessity of these strikes, especially considering the War Powers Act. What about the political fallout for the Trump administration? President Trump, of course, had advocated for...
I wish one of you guys were here right now because I can't open this. This is so crazy. Is it even a twist top? Am I going to have to go get one of my neighbors?
Less U.S. intervention in wars, less U.S. intervention in the Middle East, but he's done the opposite now.
Well, there hasn't been, compared to the buildup to the U.S.-led war in Iraq back in 2003, there has not been weeks or months of public discussion and debate about whether military action against Iran was justified. And as you pointed out, there has been some rather critical divisions among Republicans, especially those who supported the president, saying that this is not a justifiable action. But there have only been a couple of congressional Republicans, Senator Rand Paul, Congressman Thomas Massie, both from Kentucky, arguing that there are no legitimate grounds for carrying out such military action. And in fact, Tom Massie has been one of the co-sponsors of that war powers resolution that would restrict the White House's ability to continue military action against Iran. However, it is highly unlikely that a vote on this resolution is going to be allowed to be brought to the floor by the Republican leadership. There also has not been much polling of the U.S. public about what the U.S. should do, if anything, about Iran. One recent poll released in the last 72 hours indicated that some 45% of Americans questioned for this poll were opposed to any action, while maybe about half of that percentage was in favor. But again, that's just one poll of one small group of Americans. This has not been a matter of public debate, but certainly this is, as some are calling it, a promise broken by Donald Trump, who had campaigned on trying to keep the U.S. out of military action, especially in the Middle East.
Ross, thank you very much for now. Rosalind Jordan live for us there in Washington, D.C. Let's head over now to Tehran, the Iranian capital. Our correspondent Tauhid Asadi is there. Tauhid, tell us about the initial reaction in Iran to these U.S. strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities, and what's the damage assessment?
Shut up, Tom.
Well, actually,
okay,
we
I'm
don't
sorry.
have
I'm
precise
sorry. I
report
shouted.
when it comes to the damage assessment, and we're waiting for further details coming out. But speaking of reactions,
There's no space underneath my couch, Tom. All right. 9/11 on speed dial. What? Oh, that's her pet? I don't have a pet. Guys, stop. This is serial, okay? This is a serial situation. It's like midnight, so I don't know if I want to go to my neighbor and be like, hi, sorry, again, can you help me? Because this has happened before. Yeah, this has definitely happened before. Or I've had to like, be like, hey man. When I first moved here, I was like, hey, can you open this for me? I don't have a opener. Yeah, I think so. I think he was making out with someone too on the couch. I interrupted their sesh.
we've got 2 statements, one from the Center for Nuclear Safety of the country coming out to say that people nearby, living in the nearby areas of these three sites, which were targeted by the American forces, they should not be worried. There is no danger for living people, for people who are living in the nearby area, and this is very important in terms of the possibility of nuclear
I am sure they
contamination,
continued
something
after
that the
I
Center for
left.
Nuclear Safety of the country came out to deny, according to the statistics and reports that they have, and they said that there was a sort of preparation in this regard. Also, we've got this statement coming from the Atomic Energy Organization of the country coming out to confirm these three sites being targeted by the forces. Also, they said that it goes quite against international law and NPT, something Iran is a signatory of which, and also they have criticized IAEA for their indifference and quote-unquote even support of these strikes in a sense, and that is related to a recent adoption of a Board of Governors resolution of IAEA. For many Iranian political analysts, they are convinced that paved the way, specifically seeing the timing for these escalations to ramp up to an unprecedented level at the time being. Also, when you look at this statement, they are saying that these sites which were targeted were under full inspection.
I'm an independent woman. I got it, guys. I opened it. I did it. I didn't have to go to my neighbor, my male neighbor. I did it.
Of IAEA, and
yes,
that is quite contradictory to law according to these statements. But still, we can rest assured that moves to escalate the situation into a next unprecedented level. Right now, we can say escalation is the name of the game that we see on the ground.
Okay, before I ask you about what the Iranian response might be, just to recap and reiterate, about the damage assessment, what we know about the extent of the damage to the facilities that were hit by the US, these three facilities, Isfahan, Fordo, and Natanz. We heard that there was no sign of contamination and no danger for the people who live in the vicinity of these sites. Can you just confirm once again what the Iranian agency...
How could you fucking bombed a nuclear enrichment facility? How could there not be like fallout to the citizens? How? And the water, the food, the soil, the air? Like, come on. Fool? You're seriously? It's been done. What are you talking about? I need you to explain more.
She has said about the damage at the three sites.
Yeah, as I told you earlier, we've got the Center for Nuclear Safety coming out to say that there is no danger for people living nearby the areas targeted, including Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Also, they said that right now we don't have any confirmation that there is a nuclear contamination. Also, there is this statement coming out from Iran's member of parliament, Qom's member of parliament, indeed, Qasem Ravanbakhsh, who said that the extent to which damage is out there to Fordo facilities is not that the American media and U.S. President Donald Trump is claiming. What is putting forth is that the damage is less than what the American side is putting forth, but indeed, the truth of the matter is that we have to wait for further investigations to be conducted to have a real assessment of what goes on there, as so far we haven't received any footage for that.
Let me just ask you briefly, Tauhid, about how might Iran respond now. Prior to the U.S. strikes, of course, the Iranians had threatened to respond if the U.S. was to get involved in the conflict with Israel. What are the options on the table now for Iran?
Well, actually, when it comes to the very practical strategies to be taken into consideration, the Iranian side has decided not to spill the beans about the details. But speaking of the broader context, I can say that we heard from the Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, coming out a couple of days ago in a video message saying that any possibility for intervention of the United States, which is obviously now getting into not a possibility but a reality on the ground, runs the risk of irreparable damage. And also, he said, alongside with other Iranian officials, they're all saying that that intervention could run the risk of a further escalated, full-fledged, all-out war scenario. Basically, speaking of the potential response, we have to keep in mind that Iranians were talking about possibility of U.S. bases, U.S. assets in the region as a retaliatory target when it comes to their response. And they said that in case U.S. intervention happens, we have been prepared for it for over 10 years. And it is preparedness from the Iranian side to get involved in a prolonged confrontation. What comes next is something that we have to keep
Also,
waiting.
happy
But still,
birthday.
speaking of the context, we know that Iran is
White
saying
chicken,
that
if
it
you're
was
still there.
engaged in the trajectory of diplomatic affairs with the United States. Last Sunday, we were supposed to see a next round of Iran-U.S. talks in Oman, but what happened all of a sudden was this strike, and Iranians are saying, okay, we were giving a chance to diplomacy, but what we received in return was nothing but strikes, and that paves the way for further and further and further escalations.
Okay, Tauhid, thank you very much. Tauhid Asadi in Tehran. We will check in with you, of course, a little later for all the latest reaction out of the Iranian capital. Now, just before President Trump delivered his address, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a pre-recorded video statement on the U.S. strikes on Iran. He said history will record that the U.S. acted to deny Iran the most dangerous of weapons.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed.
Oh my god, fucking glaze, man. The real worry is how much help has Russia given to the Middle East for the nuclear program that they have. I mean, I don't know. Or the Chinese. I don't know.
It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today...
They don't even have the fucking weapons. This is Iraq. All over. I can't.
has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
Let's get more on the reaction now in Israel. Noor O'Day is joining us from Amman, Jordan. Noor, this is what Prime Minister Netanyahu wanted, direct U.S. involvement in Israel's war with Iran.
Okay, I think we got it, guys. I will try to stream tomorrow. Thank you for the raid, Fool. I really appreciate it. This was like an emergency stream. Literally, like, you didn't see the beginning of it. We can check out the VOD or whatever. I didn't even have the camera on because Trump was speaking and I wasn't ready. I wasn't, you know. But yeah, I mean, I just had his speech on and then I came on camera. Okay, that did not sound very good. Hope nobody clipped that. But yeah, I need to figure out my schedule. Hopefully, if there's like a lot of clarity or more clarity tomorrow and like statements from different nations, I will stream. Other than that, I would probably wait until Monday if there isn't any like significant like news clarity information like on what actually happened. Like were they successful? Like who's saying what? Is probably going to be conflicting statements. Yeah. And I want to watch like not just like English, like English controlled, NATO countries controlled media. Like I want to listen to like, or like at least read about, and I can tell you guys and pull it up on stream what other countries that are not NATO friendly are saying. BBC World Radio radio station. Yeah, I mean, BBC is typically great, but it is state-sponsored, so a lot of their views that I've covered before on politics is, like, very NATO-sanctioned, you know, like, very, very westernized. Fool. The word service has mad info. What? But the world service on the radio is something else. Okay, I have not listened to the radio. Yeah. Yeah, fool. All right. Well, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you guys tune back in. Thank you for the follow, MV. Please follow so you can know and be notified next time I stream. And you won't get lost in like 34,000 people's chat. You know what I mean? Like here you can actually have your voice heard. And I think I have people who have been in my community for a while, I have a slightly certain issues that I disagree with like very popular political commentators or streamers or whatever. Yeah. Everyone stay safe who lives in America. Especially if you live in New York like me or LA. But like LA should be fine. I don't know if Iran has the capability and the tech to hurt the mainland US. They might go for like a US territory, you know. Don't even, Redman. I'm trying to sleep tonight, you know what I mean? Well, if you never hear from me again, and then you hear something happened in New York City, then you know I have perished. Knock on wood. But yeah, maybe he shouldn't come down, Redman, to the city anytime soon. Because at least you'll be out of the blast radius. You know, if it was like a huge bomb or like a nuke. Fool, or if next time you stream you are wearing a red cloak. Yo, come on. Turg, I'm thinking sabotage of infrastructure. How so? Like a suicide bomber or something like that? Hopefully there's no chemical weapons. Fuck, man, this is just crazy. This is crazy. I could definitely see them activating, like, people in America. Because surely they have people in America. Just like how Americans have infiltrated Iran, given its completely uneven capabilities. But I'm sure there are. I do like Margaret Atwood, though. Fool. I have a poem that she wrote tattooed on my spine. So I do like her very much. Yeah, they could target power grids, like internet shit. Like, I need to get like a battery pack, like a backup. But then like the cell towers, I don't know, whatever. Fool, if they go for it, history points to them being undefeated. Wind up radio is better. Yeah. So I was during COVID, I was looking into, because I have like a getaway box or whatever, or like an emergency box. I was looking into like, what do I need? And I'm like, everything that's manual, hand cranked is like something that you should get. All right, guys, peace out. My DoorDash is calling me. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Fool. I will see you tomorrow, maybe? All right, guys.